20, that's why I'm also too late.
Yeah.
But it's good. Let's use a different mantra right now, which is the mantra for teacher, student, the mantra for the people who want to learn, who want to discuss together, who want to discover something together, who want to grow together. Om Sahana Bhavatu. Om Sahana Bhavatu. Sahanau Bhunaktu. Sahanau Bhunaktu. Sahaviryam Karavavahi. Sahaviryam Karavavahi. Tejasvina Futitamastu. Tejasvina Futitamastu. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you so much. So we are burgers now, ready to study together. That's good. So, immune system. Or I have this nice drawing here about this immune system. So you see, the immune system here is picturesque actually as a network of channels and knots where the bone marrow is a part, plays an important role, and the rate, it's called this little organ on the other side, on this side of the body, behind. It's only one-sided. It's Milz in German. I'm not exactly sure what it's in English. So, and this is also important for the immune system, and also the thyroid, the thymus gland again. Sorry, the thymus gland in the center, underneath the sternum, about here. So, why is the immune system here drawn as a network of channels? Well, that's the lymphatic system. Okay, so the lymphatic system is actually the system of liquid and also bodily purification. Like whenever there is an inflammation, that byproducts of that inflammation, like destroyed cells and dead white blood bodies and all of these things, are transported along this lymphatic system and then cleaned away inside the lymphatic knots, which in case of strong presence of some kind of poison or some kind of byproducts, it can swell the lymphatic knots also. And they can also when white blood bodies need to be present, then all this swells a lot. So this lymphatic liquid is basically transporting cells of the immune system, and also contains memory cells of the immune system, and contains all kinds of constituents of the immune system, and is mainly a system of channels in which liquid is circulating through the body. Basically, when the lymphatic system is disturbed or damaged mechanically, then liquid can sometimes not be distributed well through the body. So like, the feet can suddenly swell because the liquid is just falling down inside the body alongside of gravity. So like the lymphatic system is really this distribution of liquids within the body. It's very important, of course, and alongside of these liquids, the constituents of the immune system, which are different types of cells and maybe also antibodies and so on. But they are also around in the bloodstream. So somehow my personal, what I've learned is that there are, of course, all the compartments of the immune system which are in the lymphatic system, also in the bloodstream. It's only that the blood has mainly the job to distribute nourishment and oxygen, whereas the lymphatic system has the job to distribute liquids and to clean away things like to transport byproducts of inflammation or of damage that was caused in the body. Okay, so it's good to know that there is this liquid distribution system, and inside this liquid distribution system there are these knots, the lymphatic knots. And whenever there is an inflammation in a limb or in a part of the body where such a knot is close by, these knots can swell due to the things which are in the lymphatic channels then, because of this inflammation. So these knots can swell, and they're busy cleaning the blood and cleaning the lymphatic liquid and filtering the lymphatic liquid. This phenomenon is well known. When you have throat pain, then the lymphatic knots here are swollen. When you have borreliose, then the lymphatic knots swell wherever you got bitten from the animal. So you have there are several such cases. Also you have the area in which there are important accumulations of lymphatic knots in the body is here. In this area next to the reproductive organs, then here, and also here under the arms, in this area on both sides, of course, and inside the torso also. So here you have inside the belly, here you have this accumulation of knots, and the accumulation of knots, of course, you have there where there are sensitive organs which need to be protected, and where inflammations need to be or the cause of inflammations and the byproducts of inflammations need to be absorbed fast, reabsorbed fast, and cleaned away fast. And as we know, here the blood is going up direction to the brain, so it's very important. The next to the reproductive organs, of course, there shouldn't be any damage. And in the heart and the lungs, this is here. This is also, of course, very important. They have to function all the time. You cannot allow yourself problems there. So what is this immune system now? And I think this is really beautiful and really, really, really interesting, Looking at the immune system, also with the microscope, or looking at a cell, like a constituent of the immune system, like a white blood cell of the microscope, you have the feeling it's an independent entity. It's an independent organism that is crawling by its own will and through its own, guided by its own intentions through the body and just doing its job. It really looks like an independent being, It's crawling around and absorbing things and touching things, and it's very, very alive. And this, in a way, reminds a little bit to the origins of the immune system. And the origins of the immune system are a little bit like this, at least of the specific immune system, that if you cannot defeat an enemy, it is better to make this enemy your friend. So, and the immune system is in many ways functioning like this. Of course, there are these cells are part of your body, which are 100% produced from your body, and they defend your body. But in many ways, the immune system is very similar to those organisms who are attacking it. It is highly similar, and it is also cooperating with them, with similar organisms as those which may be harmful to your body. It is basically living in a symbiotic relationship with all kinds of bacteria and all kinds of mushrooms on the surface of your body and also inside your intestines, and basically having a relationship, a friendship with them to share work. The immune system is a system of symbiosis with the environment. What the immune system is actually doing, its job is to defend the bodily integrity to the living world around. because there is a living world, and the living world is not only tigers and bats and spiders, but the living world is the whole microbial alive sphere around that is living in the waters, on all surfaces, in the air, everywhere. And the immune system is trying to establish a right for the body to exist as an independent unit within this macrocosm of life. You must have a right to live, a right to have a certain integrity. And this right is negotiated. This right is not made by brutality. It's not that you have the right to exist because you kill everyone. It's not true. This right to exist is carefully negotiated from all sides through the process of evolution. They are allowed to live a little bit inside of you, and you're allowed to have a little bit of the space, and you're trying to negotiate your space, and the space is finally established somewhere. And to some degree, the immune system is like this. It's establishing your small space within this extremely complex surrounding that is full of life. This is the first thing you must understand, I think. You must understand that there is a living world around you of which you are not aware. And it's full of life. Like if you have one drop of water and you look at it from a river, it's amazing. You have Jurassic Park in there, and even when you go smaller, there are even other things in there, all kinds of crazy creatures. Especially when it's not all too clear, the water, then it's amazing. So and these things you drink when you swim, and you have them on your skin, and they penetrate your eyes, and they penetrate the openings of your bodies, and it's completely normal. There is no problem, because your body has carefully negotiated a relationship. And which I found extremely interesting, that especially my father has hemorrhoids. Okay, just telling you, that's an interesting detail anyways. So, and my father got an operation to take them away. And I was asking him, isn't it extremely problematic, You're cutting your blood vessels out behind there, and there is your caca going by. How exactly does this work? You have an open wound that can only infect. And he says, no, it's interesting, it's not like this. When you're open there and you do not press too hard, and it's okay, it heals very fast. And I asked him, because he's doctor, and I asked him, well, how is this, And he said, yeah, it's because there is this intimate relationship between the organisms, all these bacteria that you consider so dirty, and your body, and they are so well tuned, they are so well, it's a tuning, they are perfectly adapted to another, so that they don't hurt another. It's a perfect relationship. Like the immune system immediately detects if they are not there where they should be, and reacts extremely fast, and they do not actively disturb. So they do not actively inflammate or actively colonize something they shouldn't. Only if the body is very weak and the body is dead, something dies off inside for some reason, because then they can colonize and cause inflammation inside, but usually they don't. Like, it's a very, very fine tuning. It's the same with lactobacillus, in your own body, it's everywhere in the body of the woman. It lives inside the breast, this bacteria. It lives inside, it lives inside the vagina, it's everywhere. It's all around the body. And it's a perfect symbiotic relationship. A very ancient relationship. And how did that relationship start? It starts with jellyfish, actually. Or maybe it starts even earlier. But it starts with somebody, some cells, and they come together, and then they figure out, now we are many, and maybe we cannot only filter what's passing by in the water, but maybe we have to absorb like bigger pieces, because it's an advantage, when you have a mouth and a belly, because then you can swallow something and digest it. If you don't have a mouth, you cannot swallow, you can only absorb, which is the destiny of very tiny microcellular organisms. But I think even they have an intestine, which is so funny. So anyways, so there is this, the jellyfish, and the jellyfish wants to absorb something, so it absorbs a piece of leaf, and of course then a problem occurs, because if you absorb something, then you have it inside of you. So how do you deal with it? If it starts to get bad, starts to rot, how do you do? So you could say with the very first intestine that occurs, and if it may be a little crabbed, with the very, very first intestine, the symbiotic relationship between you and the bacteria that inhabit you starts, because you need to have a relationship to them, because you cannot kill them. It's impossible. You cannot kill all of them because they're everywhere. Even if you would disinfect the surface of your skin perfectly, whatever you touch, they're there again. And when you jump into the river, you're immediately there. And when you rub yourself on a stone, you immediately open, so they're immediately inside. You cannot kill them. It's just not possible. You must establish a peaceful family, and so you harvest them and you develop a relationship, and you have good ones that help you and that only live in the human intestine, like Escherichia coli, as far as I'm concerned. It's one of these bacteria that doesn't occur anywhere else. That's why when you find it in the rivers, you know that somebody shit inside, because it doesn't come from something else, and it only comes from human beings. And there are many such bacteria that are highly specific for specific species and that live in a relationship with them. And the immune system, as I've already said, really starts with the intestine, because not the main work is to be done in the intestine, but because if there's something wrong with the intestine, the immune system is in constant stress, because it's inside of you, so it's a really big problem. Yeah. But if everything is good with the intestine, then the immune system really have a lot of space to work, and is very well inspired, and can also work to the outside strongly. So this relationship to the bacteria inside of you must be good, then the relationship to the outside world is easy. And this relationship is really old. It's very old. It's older than you as a human being. It's older than mammals. Yeah, it's very likely, actually, of course, older than vertebrates, and it's maybe even older than multicellular organisms, that you have a certain relationship to others. So it's really a very old relationship. So this immune system is negotiating your right to live, and it's negotiating this well. The immune system, if the immune system usually in a healthy human being that is strong does not tend spontaneously to be inactive. The immune system has the tendency spontaneously to be active or to be overactive. It needs to be inspired. This is because, from the perspective of evolution, it's always better to have a nervous immune system than a lazy one. Because the nervous can do shit, but the lazy one kills you for sure. So it's always better to be a little bit more aggressive, at least in the perspective of the immune system. And the immune system is a little bit, it gets nasty sometimes. And it can get nasty when it's not properly tuned. This is this tuning. It needs to be tuned, it needs to learn. There is, of course, an evolutionary programming already there. I think it intuitively understands certain organisms as what they are, automatically, because it's already there. But it has still to learn about the environment around one, which is alive. And it is well known that children who grow up in a time where the immune system is in a strong learning process, in environments that are full of life, their immune system is proper tuned in relationship to the life around it. When the immune system is not proper tuned, the inherent energy in the immune system, it doesn't get weak because of this. It gets confused, and that's dangerous. If the immune system is not well tuned, its energy becomes not well directed, because knowledge is not well established, it is confused, and then it starts to make shit. Autoinflammatory diseases, allergies, all kind of things, it overreacts to no problems. It starts to become nervous. It's known that we have in our society many such kind of phenomena that were not existing before. Okay, so there seems to be there seems to be a necessity to confront yourself with the living world around you. You know, but of course there's a reason why we do not have that so much in our times, because it's also dangerous to confront yourself too much with the living world, you know. Having a certain hygienic protects you against the dangers. It's like, you know, it's like this. When you are a young person, then it's good if you go out to the forest to learn how to hunt and to learn how to deal with the animals so that you can become strong. But going out imposes the risk that the puma kills you or the snake. There are pumas out there and there are snakes. So the strategy of our society is to say, well, either we kill all pumas and we kill all snakes, or we make a big house in which we lock the people in so that do not encounter pumas and snakes. The problem is, by doing so, we also do not encounter the nice beautiful birds and the bugs and the deer and all the other animals which are inspiring and interesting for us, and we do not learn about them. And that's why we become depressed. In the case of our immune system, we become confused. What I want to say is, of course, it imposes a risk to expose yourself to the living environment around. But it is a risk that you somehow have to carry to some degree in order to develop a healthy body. You have to challenge yourself. I'm saying this because it's also, of course, not the solution to run naked out in the forest and to eat all berries you find, because and to swim in all waters you see, because you can get sick and it's dangerous. Yeah, especially when you're in countries where there are more pathogens, then it's dangerous. Somehow in the tropical rainforest, so you go swimming everywhere. It's not only that the piranhas may taste your toes, it's also that you get all kinds of worms and insects that put their eggs under your skin, and the malaria and I don't know, and terrible things. I mean, there is leishmaniose out there, so there are really things you just don't want to encounter them, really.
Yeah, there was a thing that was crawling under my skin towards my toes.
Yeah, no, there are things out there that eat you. You have to be careful. And that's the reason, of course, why we protect ourselves. But this overprotection is dangerous. So you must find a balance. So the immune system has to learn how to deal with the world. Like we are in the West, in our world, we are at the other extreme. Yeah, we are too protected. You know, the newest news about Corona at the moment is that in Delhi, 20% of the people already had Corona. Antibody test. In relationship to this high infection rate, there almost was no problem. I mean, of course, not everybody goes to the hospital, nobody has money, I understand. Yeah? They also do not have this protocol so well. But still, at least from my perspective, it seems to be that the people, they have a better immune system than us, possibly. Like, I have to say, I have this impression, because 20% is not. I think in Austria we had full hospitals, people suffocating, and we have 2% or something, or 1. It's nothing. Yeah, so that's really a lot, and obviously they digest it better. They digest such viruses better because they live in a very dirty world. If you ever, I was in Delhi, oh my god, seriously, yeah. I still have a photograph from a few guys smiling, sitting at the street, pulling rice somewhere down on the ground. Somebody else is sleeping on the ground, the dirt, and beside there are standing 5 rats in a row, and all of them eating the rice that the guy just throws down right now. I seriously made a photograph because it looked so funny. There was this guy sleeping in the sun, and the other was just throwing the rice, and he was smiling at me, and beside was this row, just like the rats in the buffet they were eating. I really thought, oh my god. Yeah. So, this is like, that's life there. So, but I'm just saying, but they have terrible diseases. Really terrible diseases, the people there. So, it's, you have to be careful. So, This immune system evolved out of a relationship to the environment, and a healthy relationship must be established in order to strengthen the environment. The immune system can become exhausted and weak, either because it fights against itself because of some autoinflammatory disease, or it's just not inspired sufficiently, But usually it's always because there is some kind of inflammation inside the body, where it's just eating itself and consuming its resources for nothing. This is for many people a problem, Like one should always aim for having a purified body, which means a body in there are no things that do not belong there, in order to avoid unnecessary inflammation, because inflammation always consumes energy. Also physical energy, it makes you tired, it makes you exhausted, and it makes the immune system weak. One should always avoid inflammation. All kinds of, not only can muscles inflammate, such kind of things, like by the teeth you can have inflammation, and in tissues you can have inflammation, so always avoid this. And you avoid inflammation the best with proper food, bodily purification, and proper sports. Give away things that don't belong there. So, the other point I wanted to come to, so the immune system can become weak. What I read recently, which was very, very interesting, was that there are these kind of stimulation therapies for the immune system. I think there exist many, like therapies that stimulate. And there are different ways to stimulate the immune system. But one of the most famous ways to stimulate it is to confront it with a poison. Because when you confront it with a poison, it's like you have a net of hornets, and if you kick them a little bit, then they all come out. Very nasty. And even if they're sleepy, and even if they're tired, they come out very nasty. And this is in a way, a little bit the method people use in order to get rid of chronic sickness. Because chronic sickness is very often a phenomenon occurring in the body because the immune system is not doing its job. Wounds are just not healing. Sicknesses are simply not defeated. Immune system is just not doing what it's supposed to do. So what people do is, you inject a poison that is stressing the immune system. And by that stress you assume finally it will come out and do the job it just forgot. There is ozone therapy, there is this MSM, this crazy method of people taking, it's more pseudoscience, of people who are taking this minor and miraculous supplement. You heard about this? Whatever, it's Chlor. It works for the same principle. The principle is obviously overstimulation of the immune system through that strong poison which is Chlor inside the body, and therefore a feeling of high and a feeling of activity, inner activity, feeling of strengthening. But this, of course, is the same as an ozone therapy, as an oxygen therapy that you pump in the blood, and it's of course only short-term effect. And it's dangerous because such kind of therapy is also arnica, is the same category, the flower. Arnica is a poison. If you're, or is it echinacea? I'm sorry it's one of these flowers people take when they're sick, and the effect of this flower is it contains a natural poison. And this poison stimulates the immune system, and therefore you get rid of your sickness. But all these kind of medicines only work in a certain time frame. If you take them longer than 2 weeks, let's say, or you make 4 ozone therapies in a row, then your immune system is really fucked up. It's like with the nest of wasps or hornets. If you kick them too often, then they get stressed and they die. If you kick them 3 times a day, they get weak. They die and they do not make it over the winter because it consumes too much energy. So what I'm trying to say is they figured out a different way to stimulate the immune system for chronically sick people. Guess what? Which works as good as ozone therapy. They figured out, they were very surprised, It works as good as ozone therapy.
Yoga?
Yeah, possibly. No. Better, going for a walk. You see? You go out, you know? You go out, you go for a walk, you know, you go in the forest, you know, you hug some trees, you continue walking, you maybe swim in the river, you sit a little bit in the grass, you play a little bit with the earth, you know, you continue, you know, perfect, works perfect. You know, the people need the ozone therapy because they are too lazy or too stupid to do that what is obviously good for them. Hike a mountain. Yeah, and because they do not manage to do that, because they're sitting on the sofa at home, being depressed about their weakness, not getting their asses up, they stay weak, they need ozone therapy. But actually, what really helps is walk on the mountain, breathe some fresh air, take a swim in the cold river, roll yourself in the flowers, half naked, continue walking in the forest, get some fresh herbs from the ground, kiss a tree and then go home again. And if you did so, then you're very fit. And if you do this 3 times a week, you have no problem with your immune system. And it's obvious. And you do not need miracle mineral supplement for it, nor do you need anything else. You just need to go for a walk frequently. And if you still fall sick, then be in bed and hug the blanket and afterwards you're better. And then when you're good again, you go for a walk again. It's as simple as this. But this simple truth doesn't seem to reach mankind yet. Mm-hmm. But I still think it's, you know, that's what grandmom says and what everyone says, and it's true, you know. So they figured out that the activity of the white blood cells after ozone therapy is not different than the activity of the white blood cells of somebody who was weak before and who went for a walk and comes back from the fresh air. So this is obviously sufficient to maintain proper activity. And why is this? Because the immune system evolves and evolved in relationship to this living surrounding. And all it needs to function properly is a proper relationship to the living surrounding. It needs that relationship. So this is, you know, what we can do, you know, in a protected environment, you know, not in the poisoned river and not in the river where there's the Spulwurm inside and not in the river where there's the Amöbe inside, you know, from the Amöbenruhe. In this river, you better take a bath and you enjoy the sun and you are out and you play with the earth and then you are happy. And nothing can happen to you, you know. So it's good to do this regularly, and if we observe our own lives, we may figure out that we may not do it often enough, but it is obvious, absolutely obvious, that chronic problems can be defeated this way. You can prove it somehow like this. Imagine a person who is doing this every day and who still suffers a chronic sickness, almost unimaginable. Imagine those people who are walking up the mountains regularly, how they look like. How they are. You know, I know these people because I come, my best friends come from Pinzgau and I come from Salzburg in the mountains. You know, I know how these people look like. You know, they're all strong and, you know, and fast. You know, bodily also, you know. They're tuned, you feel it. This is the solution. Yeah, very simple. So once you know that, you do not need to fear any failure of your immune system anymore, because you know the answer. And it's also purifying your body, you know, especially hiking the mountains purifies you. You sweat so much. If you climb 2,000 meters, boy, you sweat, unimaginable. You always forget again if you don't do it, but it's crazy how many liters can get out of you if you do that. Yeah, and at the same time you see amazing landscapes and you see snakes around. And you experience the extreme spiritual wideness of the place and the silence on 2,000 meters where it's so silent. And you see the light and then you see the atmosphere and you smell the trees and you find the mushrooms and you see the caves and you see the animals up there, the Steinböcke. And it's just great, it's beautiful, you know, and you're freed from all problems. So this is my personal opinion and scientifically backed up in a way, and back up from the experience of my grandmother and of your grandmothers too, that this is the solution for problems of your immune system. Okay, so this is what I want to give you. And yeah, it can be easily explained because the immune system is that system that exists in relationship to this world and only can find its proper place in relationship to this world. So, and because we are already there, I think that maybe it's time to talk about the digestive system, because somehow we are not far away from the digestive system. So let's think about this. Anybody can tell me something about the digestive system, maybe? Maybe you want to explain me some. Let's make it more interactive. We can start with, what do you like to eat? You know, it's always a good subject. You know, you're almost French, so maybe it's a good subject for you.
No, don't say that to a Belgian people. That is...
I'm sorry, is this insulting for you?
German?
No, I didn't know, I'm sorry. I didn't know that this is insulting. I'm very sorry.
Yeah, for me, to start my day, it's good to work to activate my digestive system.
Mm-hmm.
And like this, I know that I can free my package ready for my day. And yes, I feel good after that. I have no more inspiration about it.
Yeah. You're okay.
Maybe
Say something. Yeah, the digestive system was always the thing where I thought the most of, because of all these diseases I have. And yeah, suddenly I found out that it kind of talks to me. So
What does it say?
It says what I should eat. So I was not, and now I'm to the vegan diet and I really feel great because my body feels great with it, but I didn't start to do like this because I said, okay, I want now to save the animals and that is why I have to be vegan. It was more like I heard what my body wanted to have and suddenly he wanted no meat more, then he doesn't want to have fish, then there comes the eggs. It was a kind of feeling that my body said, no, please not. And in the other way, he suddenly wants to have the peppers all the time, and this is crazy. I just tried to learn what he wants to have to eat, and this suddenly, in the end, leads me to the vegan diet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm very happy with my fruits and vegetables now.
It's very good.
Yeah, as you ask, what do you like to eat?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the digestive system is also twofold, you know. On the one hand, it is filled by what you eat, but on the other hand, it is filled by what eats what you eat, you know. And both of these things somehow make your health. Because your health is made, of course, by what you eat. But your health is also made by the health of those who eat what you eat. Because you're not alone in your digestive system. Yeah. Just like, as I said before, there is this symbiotic relationship between you and the microbiome. You know, the many different bacteria and organisms that live there. I think it's like, it's almost 1 kilogram of pure bacteria inside the intestines of an adult. Who are living there. Yeah, so it's a lot. Of course, it may fluctuate between the size of the person, what is an adult, because adult is different size, and the intestines usually have a certain proportion to the size of the body. But it's about this. Yeah. And so why that the digestive process is in many ways no active process. Basically, the digestive system is a tube with a quite a bit of surface, you know, with many wrinkles on top, where there are little tentacles inside, you could say, you know, little things that come out and that are in contact with the liquid inside the thin intestine, and mainly inside the thin intestine, and there this liquid is pumped around or massaged or, you know, moved. And the main digestive process, you could say, so the real process of the overturn of the substance is actually done by the bacteria that live inside there. Because the bacteria are in direct contact with the food. You know, you are not so much in contact with the food directly. You're in contact with those things which are dissolved in water. With those things you're in contact. Okay? So you can only, the body can only absorb what is in the liquid phase somehow. What got dissolved, what got broken up on the molecular level. But in contact with the food itself are the organisms that can break things up on the molecular level. Yes, you can extract sugar directly out of the fruit, or certain oils directly if you bring them in a solution with water. Also in the belly you can do that. But the real process of digestion, the process of breaking up into small parts, is the job of the bacteria and the job of the microbiome. So without them, you could say there wouldn't be actually a digestion somehow. You know, only a very, very small part of what is in the food could be absorbed. There is like breaking up, and there is also fermentation, which is mainly happening in the thick intestine, you know, stabilization of the food. That it does not rot inside the body. It's like biologically stabilized, like kombucha. What I found so very interesting is that when you have kombucha, when you have kefir, you know, and you forget it in the fridge, let's say, and you forget it half a year in the fridge, it doesn't change a lot. You know, really. You know, you would say, I know if I forget something half a year in the fridge, then it's dead, but no, not the kombucha. And not the kefir. You forget it half a year in the fridge, and afterwards you take it out, you use it like before. You just continue using it. And it's because this thing is not something that can rot, actually. It is, by its very nature, that organism that either causes rotting or stability. So it cannot be digested by something else. It itself is that very foundation of digestion. You see? And these organisms also live in your intestines, and they stabilize also the food and make it not rotting inside of you, which is very important, because otherwise you would get poisoned by your own food, by its own rotting process. Also, meat is stabilized in its rotting process in the body, otherwise it would be very dangerous. So the thing is, according to what you eat, this microbiome changes, because according to what you eat, the way you feed them, of course you shift the organisms from one direction to the other with the food you're giving to them. The more diverse, you see, what is the function of this microbiome? On the one hand, digestion, yes, but on the other hand, it has a secondary function. It protects you against infection, because you eat all kinds of organisms, okay, you eat everything, but those things should not be able to reproduce or to grow in your intestines. If the intestines are already settled by the microbiome, the other organisms cannot enter and grow so fast, because there is already somebody there. This chair is already taken, so who else wants to sit there if they are healthy? The stronger, the more diverse they are. Because when a pathogen germ enters, this germ can itself defend itself against other bacteria. But it will not be able to defend itself against everyone if there are a community of 500 different bacteria. So the more diverse the microbiome is, the more different bacteria and also yeast maybe and all kinds of things live there, the stronger the whole, its defense is even against the cholera, or even against a very, very dangerous pathogen that may enter. So Since the microbiome lives through you, it lives through the healthy human being, it therefore has an interest to be diverse, because only by being diverse it can protect itself and it can protect you, so that you can protect it. So it's a relationship. Okay? So diversity is important. They figured out that people who live in the jungle, like Asian people, have a much more diverse microbiome than we. Many, many more different families of bacteria live in their intestines. Here comes the other thing which you must know, which is very interesting. They figured out something, it may shock you. It's really tough to digest this one. Seriously. Who was first? You or the microbiome? Who was first, the chicken or the egg? No, I'm serious. Who was first? You can now say, because you are a human being, and you made this microbiome live in you so that you don't get diarrhea. It's a nice theory, but maybe it's the other way around. Maybe there was a colony of bacteria that thought, somehow, by its nature, that it might be very useful to have a mammal around that feeds it. Because if you are already a colony, then it's very good if there's some organism growing around you with 2 hands, with 2 feet, who puts food inside of you all the time, so that you are constantly fed nicely. So it's a little bit like this, and it is like this, by the way, because it goes, there is this vagus nerve, vagus, I'm very bad at such things, vagus nerve, I think, that it's a nerve that goes from your intestines up into your brain, and it does many strange things. People do not know exactly what it does, okay? But mainly it can decide between mental sickness, mental health, or depression or clarity. And it is mainly stimulated through the intestines. But it is not stimulated through the intestines. It is, and here comes the funny part, stimulated obviously through the bacteria in the intestines. Which is so funny. They figured this out. Now they figured out that which colonies you have in there, they stimulate the nervous signals coming through this nerve also, and affect the function of the nervous system through their stimulation. This is proven by the fact that when people are neurotic or fearful, and you give them a lot of probiotic yogurt, their stress levels go down. So the bacteria in this probiotic yogurt stimulate their vagus nerve in a way so their amygdala in the center of the brain starts to produce a little bit less of this stress stuff. They get a little bit more cool. Okay? Why is this, how is this possible? It's like that. See, these things in your intestines, they're infectious. Which means you infect other people. Your own caca that comes out of you, your microbiome, may it be strong or may it be weak, is a potential support or a potential danger for the other microbiomes in the other people. Because the microbiome is all over your body. What is in your intestine is everywhere. There's a symbiotic relationship between you and the microbiome. So if you eat wrong and you minor the diversity of a microbiome because you only eat disinfected foods that comes out of the friteuse from McDonald's, okay? So it's all homogenized. So your microbiome is disturbed. You have only 20 different bacteria in your intestine. That's a catastrophe. Usually it's many hundreds. There's really a big problem, okay? Microbiome is disturbed. Then you pose actually a real threat to all the other microbiomes. Because your caca laying around may be a big danger for the nice harmless man who walks by the street, steps into it, afterwards touches it, accidentally rubs his eyes or his mouth, it goes inside, and it may disturb the bacterial balance inside his intestines. So the other bacteria do not like to have such microbiomes around. Since all this functions in a way as a collective, okay, the strategy of the whole collective of the microbiomes is to exclude that individual out of the group so that your microbiome doesn't affect the others. So you will become unsuccessful. the microbiomes in your intestine will destabilize the brain of their carrier and will make that person depressed and will make that person maybe mentally not healthy and afraid and insecure, so that that person gradually falls down of the group and dies earlier and gets out of the group fast as far as possible, does not have a high rank in the group, so that this person may not affect the others, and hopefully doesn't sleep with anyone, doesn't have any sexual intercourse, because this could even be the most dangerous thing of all, to infect the other microbiomes with his microbiome. So the microbiome is, to some degree, not controlling each action of yours, but it is affecting the way you function in the group. When you have a strong microbiome, the microbiome will allow you to function in the group. If you have a weak one, it will exclude you from the group, because it is one body. You see, these microbes, they do not function as different bodies, it's one body. And just like in your body, if there is something wrong, it's excluded. So it is very important that you are aware of the fact that it is not like that this microbiome is serving you, you also have to serve it. It's an independent entity. And your body, in a way, is built around it. It's not that there's a deep evolutionary relationship. If you disregard this relationship, you misunderstand what you are as a human being. You are not an independent entity. You exist only in relationship to others. And you exist because you are allowed to exist. That's the next thing. You are allowed to have a relationship to the living world because you treat it properly. You are not living because your relationship is established on violence. You are living because you are in a symbiosis. So these microbes allow you to live. And you are their body. It's very important to understand this. So you must hold up the diversity also with diverse food. You must strengthen this community so that the community can strengthen you. You do not live independent. Antibiotics are a catastrophe in this context. It is fascinating that the body is so forgiving. You know, maybe it's a little bit like this, that the microbiome doesn't understand the antibiotic, you know, as a whole, as a mistake of yours, but a kind of as a natural disaster, and is trying to colonialize yourself afterwards as fast as possible again. But of course, if we So what I've told you now is I've read, this was an article of Nature, you know, about this misunderstood relationship, that this relationship is two ways, you know, that the microbes, we are also their body, it's not only the other way around, and it's good for you to know that, so that you can treat them well. How to treat them well? Well, you treat them well with diverse food. How else to treat them well? You treat them well with natural food that is not dead microbiological. The food that is dead is also changed food, overcooked food, reheated food, synthetic food, disinfected food. You know, this food is kind of dead. I figured, you know, it came to me, it was a very interesting realization. You know why people very likely like fuzzy liquids like Coke and Fanta and these kind of things, why they like that? It's because the microbiome likes it. And you know why? Because usually, the presence of carbon dioxide in such a high concentration in liquid is a marker for other microbes that strengthen the microbiome, usually. Beer especially, or kombucha, or these kind of things develop very strong carbon inside, very fast. And it's a sign for their microbial activity. That's natural, you know? And I think that we have kind of this this evolution adaptation that we find these things interesting. Immediately when something is fuzzy and blubbery, like a certain part of us assumes there are microbes. And there is kombucha, there is kefir, we feel this and we want it, we want to drink it. That's why we're drinking it immediately with great pleasure, in order to infect our intestines with more diversity, increase the capacity to ferment. Of course, these synthetic liquids like Coke, Fanta, it's fake, it's only the carbon with no life. That's why they make you very sick. But the reason why your nervous system likes it is because you're tuned into it, you want these microbes and you hope they're in there, but they're not.
It really works with kombucha and kefir, as you said that Coke and Fanta is fake, but kombucha and kefir is not fake. Does it work then there?
Of course, it makes you feel very good, this stuff, and it makes you live very long. It's well known that it's very good for your health. And you can get a lot of carbon inside, it's like champagne. Because I had kombucha for a very long time at home. I always made kombucha.
What is it?
I also have one. This is kind of a big mushroom, looks like this.
It's a colony of 200 different organisms based on on the vinegar bacteria.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you leave it like this, it's also making vinegar.
Yeah.
I mean, to sum it up, you put it in tea and sugar. The sugar is what this animal eats, and after a while, when you just leave it like this, it makes the kombucha drink out of this tea. It tastes a little bit different, but yeah, it's very, very delicious actually.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And if you take it after 1 week with normal temperature, you put it in the bottle, and then you close that bottle, and you leave it 1 more week, then you have fantastic champagne. And you open it, and it's a very nice fuzzy. It's like very, very nice bubbles. It's really amazing. It's very good.
I like it, but I was all the time wondering if it's working also.
Of course it's working. Of course it's working. But the thing is, it's maybe not working always, in that sense of that you may not need it always.
Mm-hmm.
But I think such drinks can help you over the times where you need it. When your body is weakened, your immune system is weakened, something is in your belly, it shouldn't be there, then it's really helpful. If you're already very strong, maybe it doesn't make so much difference. But it's, of course, these bacteria colonialize you, and they stabilize and they help to build up a foundation for the other bacteria. So that's, I think we can trust a little bit the culture, because in Northern Asia, kombucha is used since thousands of years successfully and praised high as a great as the organism that gives long life and a strong immune system and good health. And they know why, Like if such a long time they say that, then there must be something about it. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, it's for sure working. So just to say, I think that usually carbon since till the beginning of history, always occurred in combination with such organisms. Because kombucha has already carbon inside. Also kefir has this carbon inside. You sometimes even taste it with yogurt. With freshly made yogurt that was under high temperature, very warm, closed. It's a little sparkly when it's done. I don't know if you have this experience. It's also it also can produce this a little bit of carbon, but it's not the lactobacillus inside. It's also others that can make this. Depending on how you're doing yogurt, because there are different ways to do it. So different ways to ferment the yogurt. So and the problem that we are facing now in our times is that we are having a lot of food that is simulating basically our bodies, that it is something which it is not. Just like Coke is simulating to have microbes by being sparkly, which it has not. Okay, we have especially chicken McNuggets in McDonald's, which are vegan, which have never seen any chicken, which is a problem because they appear to be what they are not. It's not better to eat chicken, but the fact that something appears as something that it is absolutely not is very strange, You have ready-made lasagna that tastes like bolognese, which has never seen any cow ever, which you could say from a vegan perspective is very great, that you do not need a cow to make lasagna taste like cow, but it's very strange still, how you manage. And then you have all these nice candies that look like fruits, red, shiny, smell like fruit. They have never seen a fruit. Actually, they come from pigs, okay? They come out of animal protein. So this is very, very weird. And all these kinds of food, they disturb us and they disturb the body and they disturb the intestine. The body, which is also the body of the microbes. So don't forget this, that the tuning of your nervous system is to some degree not only what you want, but what they want, because it's not your own nervous system. It belongs also to the microbes in your belly. This you should understand. And you are very close connected to the food you're eating. Did you know that we can only see red? Dogs cannot, because we want to detect the fruit inside the green bush. Dogs cannot see red. We can, only to see the fruit. Okay? And we like the smell of this food acids so much, which is sometimes in luck and in colors, because we are tuned to like the fruit. And the plants on the other side, they are also tuned into us, into our bodies. They color their fruits red so that we can see them. And they put the seed inside a mantle out of sugar and out of vitamins because we need them. And they create this for us so that we eat it. So there is a symbiotic relationship between you and the world, which is very, very, very intimate. When you fake this relationship, you create big damage. Did you know, just an example for this damage that can be created, did you know that, that when people drink Coke Light, they get as fat as the people who drink normal Coke? Which is very strange, because in the Coke Light there is no sugar. That's strange. But the people who are drinking the Coke, they're getting all the calories, so clearly they get fat, but the others, doesn't make sense. Well, the reason seems to be that when the body tastes the sweetness, the massive sweetness, the body reacts with insulin. It doesn't even matter so much if there's real sugar inside. The fact that you taste sweet, there is a tuning of the nervous system of the pancreas. So the body is not waiting till the real sugar is coming. The body just knows what sugar is. So the receptor is triggered, insulin is released, but since there is no sugar, sugar levels drop, people get very hungry, and then they have to eat. So if you drink the Coke Light, you at least have to eat 2 burgers afterwards in order to balance your insulin coming up. You see? And when you drink the normal Coke, you do not need to do it. I'm just giving you this example to show you how much there is a tuning between the sensual information and the metabolism. So there is this, when you give a certain receptive signal, something tastes like fruit, but it is no fruit. This is confusing for the body. If something tastes like meat, but there is no meat, that's not good. If something is fuzzy maybe and sparkling, but there are no microbes, maybe that's not good. It confuses. Yes?
Even when the body used to do it, someone who was all the time eating coca and everything, the body...
Well, the experience shows...
Like training.
But the experience shows that people who are all the time doing this, they are very sick. That theory I'm telling you here is not only my opinion, but you see it, There is like this proof that people who are eating too much synthetic changed food, they get depression, they get overweight, they get all kinds of problems. That's why I'm telling you should eat natural food. Celery, it's good. You should eat food. You should eat food that's natural, that's unchanged, and this will keep up your health. Okay? That's not overheated, especially that doesn't appear to be something which it is not. Okay? You should also not eat too much. That's, of course, yeah. No, but that's a big thing, I'm telling you. It's really, I think, more also than what you eat is important how much you eat of something. So of course you can drink your Coke, and of course you can eat your burger possibly, but not too much, yeah. They keep everything in a certain range. It's quantity which is important here. And in general, I don't eat too much food, you know. In yoga, we say, fill 1/3 of food, 1/3 of water, 1/3 empty. To please Lord Shiva, the protector of all yogis. So you always have to have some emptiness in your belly. So I think this is the most important thing, you know? And then, of course, follow your nature apart from this, yeah? Actually, in Yogic kitchen, there is a commandment for sattvic food, you know, because you should come into a sattvic condition of mind. But not in all schools there is a commandment for vegetarian food, but there is a commandment for ahimsa, which then implies the vegetarian food, since you should not kill. This is there, just so much to this. The sattvic food that is also recommended is everything that makes your body light and supple and pure. You know, it's also the milk from the happy cows and the clarified butter and the ghee, it's also inside. But it's of course also vegetables, honey, fruits, and all of these things. That's what makes your body light and pure and does not confuse you or arouse too much desire. The yogic commandment for how to feed yourself is very open. Yeah, it's a very friendly thing. It's not too demanding actually. Yeah, you can almost do everything. That the main commandment is that you should not eat too much. This is in all of the texts, and I personally believe this to be the most important thing too. And this is because the body has the ability to purify whatever enters, if you leave him the space to work through the food, and if you do not block him with too much unnecessary work. The body has almost infinite regenerative capacities. You should just leave away what is not good and not put too many things inside, no matter if you think they're good or not. Just not too many things inside. And then the body automatically finds a great balance and the mind finds clarity and works perfectly well. Good. Questions to the intestines? No questions anymore. So, muscles, nervous system, circulatory system, or lungs? Respiratory system. What is it that you would like to have in this afternoon? We have 20 minutes.
Is there something that you may think that fits not into 20 minutes?
Everything can fit into 20 minutes, like this. Actually. Good, you leave this choice to me. Respiratory system. It's good?
Okay, yeah, sure.
So, that's a very important system. So, how does the respiratory process work in the first place? So the respiratory process works like this. that you have the diaphragm, which is this muscle that is like glued inside, underneath your rib cage, on the back of your spine, at the inside of your spine, behind, and that builds like a bow. When it is contracting, okay, it pulls down and it creates a space. So the breathing in process is the active process, okay, the contractive actually. The breathing in process is the contraction. You know, you may not think that's strange, you know, but it's like this, yeah? Like when it breathes in, it gets straight underneath, and then it creates a space above, that's why, okay? The lung itself is attached to a bag. In this bag is a vacuum. Inside the vacuum is the lung. The lung is not actually connected to this bag in any manner. It's basically in a slippery liquid moving along that bag. Okay? This bag, for people who are growing when they are young, can also get a hole, and then one of the lung wings can collapse. This is called embolie of the lung. It's very dangerous and extremely painful because you cannot breathe anymore. The lung itself, therefore, is a kind of tissue, a kind of fiber that tends to contract, so that tends to come together. That's why the expiration process is also a relaxation process or a collapsation process of the lung. When you breathe out, when you fully relax, then usually breathe out. The inhalation is an active process. The exhalation is a relaxation. Of course, there is more to it, you know. The question is so much, the diaphragm, the question is more, which part of the process is the stronger one? Because, of course, the diaphragm can perform both movements in both directions. It's a little bit smarter made. Also, the rib cage can contract, and the belly can contract in order to help, you know, to push air out of the lungs. Which means also the exhalation process can be an active process. But the inhalation process is the main movement. Like where most force is applied in inhalation. So when people are born, when kids are born, okay, they usually have an inborn breathing pattern, okay? The inborn breathing pattern is, of course, doesn't go into the belly because there is no air in the belly, but the belly moves with the rib cage in order to create more space for the lung to be filled with air. So when the little kids breathe, the belly goes in and out with the respiration. You see it when they sleep, you know, you see that big expansion of the belly and the contraction of the belly, which is the downward going and the upward going of the lungs. Because the rib cage by itself, you know, doesn't actually have so much space to expand and to go together. It's not true, because it's a fixed cage, which means when you breathe, of course, it must be mainly a breathing of upward and downward. It cannot be so much a breathing of outward and inward, because there is no space. So it must be this, okay? And in order to facilitate that upward and downward movement, children move their bellies. So, when now these kids grow up and they sit on the sofa all day long, just like most people. You know, they sit on the sofa or in a small room and they're physically not sufficiently active after a certain age. You know, when kids are very small, they're physically very active. And then, when they get a little bit older, they lose like the great desire to be physically active. When they do not have a necessity for physical activity, their breathing patterns change. Because since they're sitting around, the necessity of breathing deep, okay, for breathing deep and long is not so high anymore. you can theoretically also breathe shallow and fast for the same oxygenation, you know, when you're just sitting around. So people who are sitting will maybe start to breathe a little bit more shallow. Okay, shallow and fast. Because oxygenation does not demand that you breathe deep. You can also have a higher frequency in not so deep parts of the lungs, and you can still get sufficient oxygen. When this state, you know, is held for a while, okay, then the deeper parts of the lung start to collapse a little bit, which means they are closed. You know, they're glued together, they're just closed. The reason why they are closed is somehow because if they would be open but they would not be ventilated, there is the chance for infection. You know, if you never change the air there, you only change the air superficially, then you just simply do not have enough purification, enough exchange. So it's better for the body, you know, simply do not activate these areas and only ventilate a small area that is least well ventilated and to leave everything else simply closed up. If you then your lung volume is small and you have a high frequency of breathing, okay? Since you have a high frequency of breathing, when you then stand up from your sofa to go to the fridge, it is maybe not possible anymore for you to breathe through the nose, which you have done when you were a kid, because the nose does not allow a high airstream per second. The nose only allows a long, slow, continuous airstream, but the nose doesn't allow a fast airstream, because it's simply too small. Whereas the mouth has 5 times the diameter of the nose, so it's very simple to have a high volume in short time to go in. So you will start breathing through the mouth, because you need high frequency. You need big volume on the surface, no? Not slow, deep, but big volume, shallow, you know? So you start to breathe through the mouth when you're going to the fridge, okay? Then one day you get out of your house and you see the bus passing by and stopping at the bus station 200 meters in front of you, and you want to catch that bus. So you start to run. The problem is that you're only breathing shallow and you're only breathing through the mouth, so you cannot increase your breathing. There is no backup. So before you were breathing, now the bus comes and you just there is no, like you're exactly in the same mode, just a little bit more faster, and that's it. And the bus goes away. That's the end of the story. You missed your bus. You missed your job interview. Not good. Gone. So, well, on the other hand, you see, that's the other example. If you are a person, you know, that when he was maybe 10 years old, was actually encouraged not to sit on the sofa, but to go out into the forest and to do something. That person was challenged physically, and it was necessary to breathe deep, not only shallow, because it was very exhausting. You know, that kid needed to climb up the tree and run the mountain. It needed to breathe deep, maybe also through the mouth deep, because it was challenging. And that's why when that kid is home on the sofa, the whole lung is activated, and so the kid can breathe through the nose, because it can breathe deep, and therefore it can breathe slow. And because it can breathe slow, it can breathe through the nose. When such a kid then stands up and goes to the fridge, that kid will not need to breathe through the mouth, but it actually can manage this task by breathing through the nose, because the lung volume is open, so a small stream over a long time, okay, supplies the same volume of oxygen than a big stream in a short time that's exchanged on the surface. Okay, so that kid will basically breathe through the nose. Then it will maybe sit back on the sofa and still breathe through the nose and look at that TV show maybe. And then next day that kid has a good job offer. It's not a kid anymore. So, and the bus is coming, and the bus is 600 meters away, okay? But that kid can suddenly start breathing through the mouth and has a big volume and can run towards the bus and catch the bus and possibly get the job. Because it has a big lung volume, normally breathing through the nose, okay, in an extreme situation still can breathe through the mouth or also breathe through the nose if fitness is very high, but in any case it has a reserve volume. But that's not everything, okay, it continues. If people learn to breathe through the nose by having developed a big lung volume, they also humidify the air they breathe, they warm the air when it's too cold outside through the nose, and they filter pathogens with the hair of the nose, which are not filtered when you breathe through the mouth. So the lung stays more healthy. Further, when you have a big lung volume because you breathe through your nose, all the lung is ventilated, and if you may really have an infection in the lung, the infection cannot crawl into tissues inside the lung which are not well ventilated, and the lung has a much faster ability to clean itself. Because everything is accessible and everything is well ventilated and everything is well, there is exchange with blood, with liquid, with air. So there are no unused pockets in which something can nest. On the other hand, you can also look at this problem from the other side. If a person is breathing through the mouth, for which reason ever, no matter which reason, it's just breathing through the mouth because somebody tells him breathe through the mouth. A person is breathing through the mouth. Then the volume exchanged will be big. Like if I breathe through the mouth now, I breathe like this. Fast. But I'm not breathing fast because I like to breathe fast. I'm breathing fast because the volume is so big, such a volume, that I can't breathe deep because otherwise I get over-oxygenated too fast. So I have to protect myself against over-oxygenation, so I breathe only shallow. Because otherwise I get dizzy. You see? So I have to breathe shallow. So you will start breathing shallow. On the other hand, if you tell a person to breathe through the nose, no matter how big the volume is, that person will need to breathe deep. Longer, deeper, because the volume is smaller. So you have to breathe longer in and longer out, especially when you're in movement, like when you're walking fast outside doing something and you're breathing through the nose, then your breathing process must become deeper in order to supply. So breathing through the nose helps to increase the lung volume, whereas breathing through the mouth reduces your lung volume practically. When people enter your class, most of the people are unexperienced in yoga, in physical challenge, you will see them doing like, immediately stop it. Breathe through the nose. And if you cannot breathe through the nose, then do as gentle and soft till you can. But you must breathe through the nose, because breathing through the nose helps them to breathe deep. And breathing deep helps them to increase volume, and increasing volume helps them to have oxygenation so that they can breathe through the nose. It protects their lungs from pathogens, from everything, and then they also can be relaxed. They can have a slower heartbeat, everything. The heart rate is dependent on the breathing rate. When you breathe slower, your heart is slower, your emotionality is cooler, you have more control over your mind, everything. It must be emphasized. You must make people breathe through the nose. This is your main objective as a yoga teacher in all pranayama, except advised otherwise in some pranayama, but usually always nose. So the point is also that this breathing through the nose leads to a greater volume. So it's not only that it's basically the training that helps the lung to unfold. And everything else is not only an expression of a smaller lung volume when they breathe through the mouth, but it makes them having an even smaller lung. It reduces the volume. That's why you must avoid it. It's a one-way road. The breathing process is not made for going through the mouth. We are not built for this. We are built for breathing through the nose. Okay? That's why we have the hair there, that's why we smell there, that's why the humidification process goes on there. Yeah? The immune system reacts to everything that is in the air in the nose and is stimulated immediately so that pathogens that enter the nose first do not infect the lung. Because the nose reacts first, then the immune system comes up and defeats the pathogen also in the lung. So this is very, very important. There is many elements. When people breathe through the nose and mouth, they get immediately throat pain. Usually when that's a sign for the fact that the barrier is broken, the immunological barrier, when you breathe through the mouth. So also the immune system is operating this way through the nose, not through the mouth. The mouth is only a backup. The mouth is only here for you if the nose is fully blocked, worst case, or if a tiger comes around the corner and you need really to run. Then you have the mouth, and for nothing else. You do not breathe through the mouth, you do not do this. But you need that backup, of course, but it's a backup. Yeah. So, and I think everything else follows after this, if you tell them to breathe through the nose. And then the even breathing and the deep breathing follows. It's good. It's 3 then. Satyama